I was a head of the internal product team, essentially a tech side of the operations, and she was a head of scaling operations for a while. And we oversaw a lot of growth and a lot of scaling operations at Monzo. When it was time for both of us to leave, and we separately arrived to the desire to fund the company, and we started talking, and it was natural for us to go into the operations space, where we thought, well, we scaled ops and customer support for Monzo, and it was an award-winning customer support, like company very well known for this, so we know everything. We didn't know everything. My name is Irina Bednova, and I'm the CTO and co-founder of Cordless.
This is Code Story, the podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries who share in the critical moments of what it takes to change an industry and build and lead a team that has your back. I'm your host, Noah Laphart, and today how Irina Bednova set out to use her customer service knowledge and build a better product around telephony. All this and more on Code Story. Irina Bednova started programming when she was a kid, starting out with the Smash the Cockroach game written in Delphi, which is object-oriented Pascal. She obtained her computer science degree in Russia and moved to the UK to work in a few startups, including Monzo, a popular fintech product. Outside of tech, she cycles her hobbies from time to time and has landed on gardening at the moment, along with interior design. She's mentioned she's going to go back to woodworking when the weather changes. Irina and her co-founder led teams at Monzo, specifically in operations. What they noticed was the proliferation of chat tools for customer service, but that telephony was largely ignored. Once they validated the problem, they set out to build a product in this space. This is the creation story of Cordless.
Cordless is a cloud-based telephony platform for customer support teams and their customers. What it actually is an application, it's a web app and soon to be a desktop app where agents, customer support agents log in to take calls from their customers, make calls, and their managers can orchestrate the entire process, with the heavy emphasis on the managers being able to orchestrate the process. Because in customer support, there is a lot of problems and tasks you need to do to provide the most delightful, most efficient support for the least amount of money. These are kind of the two main objectives for any customer support manager. So Cordless provides not only the metrics and the tools you would expect to the customer support manager, like what time of the day do you have more calls than other times, what time of the week, how many agents do you have, what are the agents doing, do you need to shuffle anyone around, but also stuff that is pretty unique to us, which is the full conversational analytics. We transcribe everything by default, and we provide the managers also with the insight not only when the customers are calling, but also what they're calling about. In the last kind of 5 to 10 years, there has been a huge drive to chatbots. There has been a lot of innovation in customer support, and particularly in chats. Voice, whilst remaining one of the most important channels for customer support, has been a little bit neglected. So what we're doing, we're bringing this innovation to voice. I should start with how I met my co-founder, Luba. We both were early employees at Monzo, and we did a lot of different stuff for them. My background is technical, her background is not technical, a kind of management consultant. One thing that we overlapped at was operations. So I was a head of the internal product team, which is essentially a tech side of the operations. And she was a head of scaling operations for a while. And we oversaw a lot of growth and a lot of scaling operations at Monzo. When it was time for both of us to leave, and we separately arrived to the desire to fund the company, and we started talking, and it was natural for us to go into the operations space, where we thought, well, we scaled ops and customer support for Monzo, and it was an award-winning customer support, like company very well known for this, for their like delightful experience in customer support. So we know everything. We didn't know everything. We started talking to other customer support leaders, heads of CS, COOs, CS manager. By now, Cordless is year and a half old as officially a company. I think close into 2 years since we first started working together. And in this time, we talked to over 300 companies, over 300 heads of customer support. We interviewed a lot of people and we validated what we thought was the problem, and the problem was kind of neglected voice space. It all started with, in the most kind of MVP classic startup agile way. The first version of the product did not have any UI. It was just a set of Python scripts before we had any employees, so it was just me, a set of Python scripts to kind of help companies improve the process of their voice support, run it a little bit better. And on this, we validated our assumptions about what the product is.
Tell me about the MVP and not the Python scripts, but I'm glad you mentioned that, because that origination story is fascinating. Tell me about the MVP when you pivoted to the full telephony platform. How long did it take you to build, and what sort of tools did you use to bring it to life?
Well, I decided to go with serverless straight away. Use a Google Cloud Platform and the whole kind of Google Cloud Platform ecosystem. Originally, that started with a tweet a few years ago when I asked what is the good serverless solution, and people kept recommending Cloud Run. And I was skeptical at first because I tried AWS Lambda, and at the time it was kind of more... I don't think that was very mature as a product. When I did try Cloud Run, I was very impressed with it. So we went with the services written in Go, deployed on Google Cloud Run, and using the rest of the GCP stack as database and the queue and so on. Ops was always my weakest point. I kind of, throughout my entire career, I managed to avoid doing anything serious with DevOps or learning the DevOps properly. So I wanted to optimize for basically as little ops as possible, and this was one of the reasons why we chose Cloud Run. And Golang, I worked with Go at Monzo, so Monzo, entire banking platform of Monzo is written in Go, and I had a very good experience, so this is why I've chosen Go. And the MVP, we started, I think, in August 21, and we started onboarding first customers on the MVP in April this year. So we, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, our product, it's a B2B product where we go after companies of a certain size. It's not a big size, but it's more than kind of one customer support agent. They need a certain number of features just to be able to switch to whatever the tool they're using now to us. So we had to build a little bit upfront.
So when you're building an MVP, you've got to make certain trade-offs around accepting technical debt or cutting features, or deciding on technology. And you talked about some of those, about the technology, which makes a ton of sense. But tell me a little more about, some of those decisions and trade-offs that you had to make and how you coped with those decisions.
So we took all of the tech debt, especially in the early days, in favor of shipping features fast. Because the most important thing for the startup at our stage is getting feedback and learning. Because the sooner you can get to getting feedback from your customers, the better. We optimized for being able to put something out, to get someone using it. So we very intentionally neglected developer experience, neglected reliability, to a large extent neglected observability, to the point where when it became very, very uncomfortable for the team. We did this intentionally, and we did this understanding the trade-offs. So how did we cope with these decisions when we were in a quote-unquote crunch mode, shipping features super quickly without writing tests, without thinking about just writing tickets about the tech debt and the reliability, but not actually addressing them? We didn't have an on-call rotation, for example, because it's just unfair to ask engineers to go on call when you don't give engineers tools to minimize the number of times they will be paged and on call. So when the time came when we started onboarding real customers, what was crucial for us is to communicate, for me to communicate with the team and with the non-technical part of the team of what's going to happen, so that now we need to slow down the feature development pace, now that we need to change the way we work a little bit so that we can focus on reliability, on observability, on monitoring, on understanding customer behavior, and also giving engineers tools to kind of make their lives easier.
This episode is sponsored by Vanta. You're a startup founder. Finding product market fit is probably your number one priority. But to land bigger customers, you also need security compliance. And obtaining your SOC 2 or ISO 27001 certification can open those big doors. But they take time and energy, pulling you away from building and shipping. And that's where Vanta comes in. Vanta is the all-in-one compliance solution helping startups like yours get audit ready and build a strong security foundation quickly and painlessly. How, you ask? Vanta automates the manual security tasks that slow you down, helping you streamline your audit. And the platform connects you with trusted VCSOs to build your program, auditors to get you through audits quickly, and a marketplace for essentials like pen testing. Join over 8,000 companies, including many Y Combinator and Techstars startups who trust Vanta. Simplify compliance and get $1,000 off at vanta.com/codestory. That's VANTA.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Kinsta. Between juggling client meetings, managing your website, and keeping up with everyday tasks, who has the time to stress out about website security? Well, with Kinsta, the technical stuff is taken care of, so you can focus on what you do best. Kinsta provides managed hosting for WordPress, offering lightning-fast load times, top-tier security, and unmatched human-only customer support. Whether you're a business owner, web developer, or running a digital agency, Kinsta makes managing your website easy and efficient. Kinsta provides enterprise-grade security, being one of the few hosting providers for WordPress with SOC 2 and other certifications, guaranteeing the highest level of security for your website. Thanks to their unlimited free expert-led migrations, Kinsta ensures a smooth transition for you from other hosting providers. Customers have reported 200% faster load times post-migration to their platform. What I find cool about Kinsta is their fast and reliable customer service and premium features that are included at no extra cost. Ready to experience Kinsta's hosting for yourself? Get your first month free when you sign up at kinsta.com today. That's KINSTA.com. So from that point then, how did you progress the product? How are you progressing the product and maturing it? And to wrap that question in a box, what I'm looking for is how did you build your roadmap? And how did you go about deciding, okay, this is the next most important thing to build?
For us, it's customers. We continue talking to customers. Like I said, we talked to over 300 companies since we started. This is all a continuous process. So we try to get the product on every stage of development, on show the designs to some friendly companies to see how do they envision this feature working. And then the most importantly is to get the working product for someone to use. So we take feedback. A lot of the short-term prioritization comes from there. For the product like ours, for a B2B SaaS, there is essentially two types of features. One is features that everyone have, features that our customers expect to be there. They're nothing exciting. So for telephony, it's the ability to take an incoming call, make an outbound call, make a transfer the call. And the second type of feature is things that are unique to us, that is our unique proposition of why someone might switch from maybe a more established product, a product with more things to offer and more mature product to us, because we solve unique problems in a unique way that no one else does. So in developing and maturing our product, the most important thing for us is to keep the balance between the two. So short-term prioritization on kind of expected features we do based on customer feedback, and things that are more vision, that are more unique, we make sure to spend, if not equal, but short-term, but at least equal long-term time on these features. To give you a super concrete example, we built all the basic telephony features. We thought we're set, we're good to go, and basically the first customer we onboarded needed to have multiple phone numbers. which we knew that it was on our roadmap already because we did the market research, we did the customer research, we saw it was one of those like boring features everyone has. This was not on our short-term roadmap, and we had to prioritize based on feedback. And in terms of how we mature in the product, like I said, we took a lot of tech debt, and when we develop new features, when we don't know yet what they will look like or whether they will stay at all or what will happen to them, we take a lot of tech debt, and then as we go and mature and as we know which features stay and which won't, we endeavor to resolve that tech debt, to pay back that tech debt, not only just like in kind of cleanness of code and the periodic refactoring of things when we know better, but also things like end-to-end tests and developer experience and more sane and well-oiled development pipeline.
So let's switch to team then. So how did you go about building your team, and what did you look for in those people to indicate that they're the winning horses to join you?
The main thing we were looking at when hiring people is the autonomy, or at least one of the main things is the ability of being and working autonomously. When we published the job opening, there was like a word senior in there, that we only hire senior engineers. And to me, especially at our stage, this is what it means. A senior engineer, and I know there is a lot of ways to define different seniority levels, and they can mean a lot of different things in different companies, but for us right now, it means the ability to work independently, the ability to kind of go and proactively find what you need to be doing, and if something is not clear, if the feature spec or roadmap is not super clear, then the ability to go and proactively try to identify and then clarify it. This is what hiring only seniors means for us right now. How do we work with the team? I think this is like one of the most exciting things for me in being a founder, because you get to build the team in accordance to your values and you get to implement the good things that you've seen in other places. And Monzo was amazing for the engineering culture, and I took a lot of things from Monzo that I wanted to see in the next place I'm working at. So what we are doing with our team, we communicate often, and more often if you think you're communicating enough with the team, especially with all remote team, then it's probably not true and you probably should do it more. And I remind myself about this daily. And we are being very transparent about where we are as a company, as a business. So for us, it's very important that everyone on the team understands why are we doing what we're doing right now. So we communicate everything from what the roadmap is, what the next feature is, who are our customers, like how much money we have in the bank, what our investors are expecting from us, what is the next milestone we need to reach. And that helps frame the work that everyone is doing. And I think that will become especially important for us as we grow, to keep this kind of channel open, to keep putting in perspective of what you're doing, because a lot of good engineers might have burned in the past on having a lot of technical debt, or kind of doing things in temporary way that in the end ends up being the most permanent solution in the whole code base. But if you frame it of why are we taking this tech debt now and why we are doing what we're doing now, then it becomes more clear, and also I think builds trust both ways. So if your team trusts you to be open and transparent and explain what's going on and why we're doing what we're doing, then you can trust your team to do their jobs expertly.
Well, let's flip to scalability then. So did you build this to scale efficiently from day one, or have you been fighting this as you grow in any capacity?
So I think the scalability problem is still ahead of us due to the nature of our product. I'm hesitant to say this because I feel like as soon as I kind of say this, I'm gonna jinx it, but I think due to the nature of our product, we will not necessarily run into the same scalability problems as, let's say, B2C products. So I'm thinking about Monzo, and I'm thinking about millions and millions of card transactions, or thousands of card transactions that happen every second, and how do you fit it into a data store, and what data structures you need to use to cope with this. So for us, it is calls, and most importantly, it is because we're B2B, everything is partitioned by the individual accounts. So our scalability problem is as big as our biggest customer, essentially. So it remains to be seen how we're going to cope with this. But I am hopeful because we have built everything cloud first. We have built everything on kind of managed serverless infrastructure, which hopefully will continue serving us and continue allow us to throw money at the problem when we grow.
That's an interesting scalability problem. If you're partitioning per customer, then your scaling problems are only as big as your biggest customer. That's a new one for the show. That's a new, not explanation, but a new challenge or a new way to approach it. I'm going to be super interested in how you solve that in the future. It's right sizing per customer, which is almost like each customer is its own sort of microservice. Each customer has the potential to be right sized and could even, change the scale at which that system works for that customer.
I think to understand that you need to think about the data first and foremost. It's not about the process. Let me give you an example to kind of frame this. So if you have in Google, you have documents all over the world that you need to optimize for returning quickly based on the search query. Only if every single person in the world had their own personal kind of database of documents, you need to only optimize of returning quickly within that data set. In our situation, in our product, when we deal with calls and call transcripts, we have millions of calls and millions of transcripts historically stored in our database. But because every company that uses us can only access and is only interested in accessing their own calls and their own transcripts, for us, the problem is to the most efficiently work with their data set. So even if our company has a lot of customers and has terabytes and terabytes of data stored, the way we need to write the code should be only as efficient as the biggest customer needs it to be.
Well, as you step out on the balcony and you look across all that you've built, what are you most proud of?
I think the team. I feel privileged to work with people I'm working with. Incredibly lucky to have the co-founder I have. Luba and I have kind of very complementary skills and things that unnerve us, which is incredibly useful in a co-founder relationship. When I am frazzled, she's calm and vice versa. I feel very privileged to work with the engineers I'm working with. Every time I feel like they feel the same about their colleagues, not necessarily about me, but about their colleagues, that kind of makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. I think building an efficient team where everyone can be fulfilled when everyone is working on something interesting and the culture is high-performing yet respectful and empathetic. This is what I always was striving for, and I hope as we grow we'll continue to preserve it.
Let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
Well, I make mistakes all the time. What I try to do is I try to set expectations on basically an early stage founder does a lot of different jobs and all of them quite poorly. So I try to kind of communicate that this is the case. But especially with the roadmap and with the work we're doing, sometimes something that we decide to do, sometimes that the kind of challenges that I put before the team, they end up being a work that we throw away. So there was an example a few months ago when we built something at haste as well, because we were chasing after a customer, I think, and in the end we decided that this piece of work is not contributing to our product success, so we threw it away. And I know it's always like a little bit disheartening and annoying to have something that you worked for being thrown away. But again, the team took it very well. The team, I just think it's a testament to maturity of like people on the team that, yeah, sure, these things happen. We did the retrospective thinking of how we can potentially avoid these things in the future. And whilst we do everything in our power to avoid these things in the future, sometimes they happen, and that's okay.
Well, what does the future look like for Cordless, the product, and for your team?
Grow the product, grow the company, grow the revenue, grow the customer base. I think the customer base is the main one. Our goals is to build something we're proud of. We already know that our product solves a real problem for real people in business, but still, and hopefully become a go-to solution for customer support telephony.
So, Irina, let's switch to you. Who influences the way that you work? You name a person you look up to and why.
I think one is kind of closer to home, more relevant. So Jonas, the CTO of Monzo, I think still the CTO of Monzo, he influenced me a great deal, especially when we were working together at Monzo, because he kind of showed me a lot of things that are involved in running a company, but also running like an individual team and what is needed in team leadership and what is required. And I think he blown my mind by leading by example on like how to think as a CEO of like what is it like to work in a company when everyone thinks as a CEO. So not like if something needs doing, you just go and do it and you figure out how to do it and you figure out from the first principles. And often, especially in a fast growing company, there isn't always someone who knows better and you just need to go and figure it out. And I think that experience helped me so much since I became a founder, because it's basically the entire time you just go and figure it out and there's no one who knows better. So that's one person that influenced how I work. But there's another person that has nothing to do with tech, but I hugely admire. It is an interior designer, Abigail Ahern. She has an interior decoration shop, and the reason why I name her is she has her own very unique style that I haven't seen anything like this before, and she has a successful business built on that unique style. So not only she has the vision, but also she has the means and the tenacity to promote this vision and do everything that needs to be done every day to bring this vision. And to me, this is a great example of something that made my life as a customer better and also is commercially successful.
Well, we talked about a mistake earlier, but a little bit different spin. If you could go back to the beginning, what would you do different? Or where would you consider taking a different approach?
I would start hiring sooner. We did spend quite a lot of time figuring out the direction of the product, and we were shy to hire, even though we did raise money, because we weren't sure, like, okay, we will hire people, what are they going to do? What are they going to actually work on? With the benefit of hindsight, I would hire faster and maybe iterate quicker, go for something a little bit more ambitious from the start. The whole story I told you about how we started and how we developed the product, there has been a lot of moments that felt where we spent a little bit too long hesitating of which direction to choose and what step to take next. So now, again, with the benefit of hindsight, if I had to do it all over again, I would be able to speed run it up to this point. And I'm sure I will say the same in a year's time and in a year's time.
Well, last question, Irina. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world. They can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit?
Talk to your customers. And then talk to your customers more and continue talking to your customers and then talk to your customers. If there's one thing that I could say, one advice I could give anyone starting a business, any business, is to talk to your customers. Everyone gives the same advice and sounds very obvious, but it's really like you really can't overdo it. The second thing is don't build a website if you build a B2B product. You don't need a website.
That's fantastic advice. Well, Irina, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for telling the creation story of Cordless.
Thank you.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. Support the show on patreon.com/codestory for just $5 to $10 a month. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.